From the Intellifluence headquarters in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, this is the Intellifluence Influencer Spotlight. In each episode, we sit down with an influencer from our network and we discuss their background as well as their unique approach to influencer marketing. Warren Whitlock has been creating content since 1969, working in new media before there was an internet. Warren is ranked as a leading influencer in content, solar energy, health, futurism, blockchain, martech, startups, small businesses, finance, marketing, and of course, social media. Warren has been named one of Forbes' top 10 social media power influencers and is the host of the Profitable Social Media Radio Show. Warren loves to create and share content that can serve his audience with information about new ideas, better living, and an abundant future. You can learn more at warrenwhitlock.com. So Warren, you've been creating content since 1969, which is pretty amazing. So how did you get into advertising?
Well, you know, I was born as a small child, and Steve Martin joke. And actually early on, I mean, in 1969, I was 13 years old. I was producing a live stream event. Live stream meant cables, and we borrowed TV cameras. It was a special event. We got two cameras. We were allowed one every month for a few days. I think a week a month, something like that. And so the school arranged to borrow somebody else's camera, hook them both up, and broadcast it out to rooms with TVs. And it wasn't all the rooms. We had cable in all the rooms, but the brand new school, first with cable, we were able to do that. And I look back on it when I got into contact marketing, and I said, that's probably was content, you know. We were using it to promote whoever was coming, and I have no recollection of that. Flash forward, that got me interested in, I wanted to be a disc jockey. First thing I heard was Mom told me, he says, with your voice, you can't be a disc jockey. My voice has changed a bit since then. But when I went to school and studied with people that wanted to be like 1960s style DJs, not what a DJ means today, disc jockey playing the records, on the radio station. I worked in radio for several years, but I quickly found out that there were people with just, you know, naturally better voices than mine, and they wanted to do that and work the crazy hours for no pay. So I got into sales and I studied advertising in college. So, and ever since then, I've looked at, the world through a marketing lens. And then the biggest thing I ever learned was Zig Ziglar, great salesman. Sold pots and pans door to door. And he taught you can get anything you want out of life if you help enough other people get what they want. And truly, that goes back to my childhood. I remember as a small kid being told, you know, you go to church and they say, you got to live your religion when you go to work or to school. And I go like, I was 6. And I go, what the heck are you talking about? You know, why would I be a different person certain days of the week? Well, I got to be an adult and some business training, and it was all dog eat dog, and you got to kill the competition, and you know, and sports metaphors and things like that. And I finally, I finally found what Zig Ziglar taught in another course by a man named Ken Greenwood, who would basically everything he was based was on Larry Wilson's famous stuff. Larry Wilson's is famous for the trust exercise of falling backwards and having your team catch you, and it was Pecos River and that kind of stuff. He was also a super salesman, and he taught, you know, you can get what you want if you just start listening. So unlike this interview where you ask a question and I'm talking for 5 minutes, in sales, I try to listen to what somebody wants and then see that they get it. And it's as simple as that.
So I'm glad that you already referenced Zig Ziglar. So I've been in sales for a couple decades now as well. We saw on your site, you know, you referenced something that I believe in personally, where people don't like to be sold, but they do love to buy. And of course, you have some particular strategies for that. So I'm curious, what strategies do you have to essentially make that sale through assisting?
That's the $1 million question. Sure, I'll help you with that. Yeah, it's simple. I go and find the people that want to buy. Because if you are trying to sell something, you're falling in the other side of that equation. People hate you. As soon as you stop trying to sell them something, they're open to tell you what they want to buy. Right now, if I was to go to a public event and walk around, people would say, hey, what do you do? Who do you work for? It's funny, most places I go ask, what do you do? And I know I'm in the wrong conference when they're asking, who do you work for? Because then it's, like, which Fortune 500 company are you with? Like, that matters. But, still individuals. Did a lot of work with IBM. People who work with IBM are just like you and me. Mm-hmm. They want the same kind of things. They're motivated by the same kind of things. But, none of them can make a decision by themselves because there's so many layers and teams and things that they do, or they don't know. I went to an IBM conference and I met people who didn't know somebody, that was like in the next booth. It's like, because it's so large an organization. You get to know people, you find out what they want, and it's work. So in the organizations I usually deal with, small, medium businesses, it's pretty simple. There's a lot of customers that love who you are. And here's a secret. Sometimes, like, I love to use the local dry cleaner because that's the basic small business. We all understand, how a dry cleaner works, and they're not going to get business from 200 miles away or 1,000 miles away. But right. On the internet, you can, because I can go on to Twitter, find people who are asking a question about dry cleaning and answer the question without any promo at all. And I'm seen as a good guy. And everybody in my local area sees that. Of course, you focus on your local area. You do your advertising, your influencer outreach. One of my favorite things to do is there's lots of resources out there where you can find an influencer who's famous in one area. Somebody went from the local football team to a pro career, but didn't go very far. It's okay. In his hometown, he's a hero. If he comes to your dry cleaner, that's a good thing. But more importantly is that idea of, I'm going to help the whole world. And my favorite example, I'll teach you here quickly, Twitter search. You go into Twitter search, because I wrote the first book about Twitter. It has, I've been using this example over and over again. You go in and type in sushi, space, Cincinnati, space, question mark. And you will get nothing but questions. People are asking about sushi and have Cincinnati in the tweet. Pretty good chance you're going to find people eating sushi locally. Haven't even tried it for a while, but I've never failed when I've tried it to find some kind of question that you could answer, just like altruistic, don't even think about selling anything yourself. If my name is sushi, best sushi of Cincinnati, actually that would be way too promo. My Twitter handle is Cincinnati Sushi, and I'm answering questions worldwide about sushi. I'm going to get a reputation real fast. On my own account, my reputation is, you can ask me a question. Anybody can talk to me. In fact, anybody listening to this interview, please talk to me at Warren Whitlock. I try to answer. I'm human and make mistakes, and there's sometimes spammy things involved, but I try to answer every unique. If you're, just a guy in Nigeria that wants to know how to be successful, how can I make money on Twitter like you? I'll answer that question. Just because I want that interaction, and my brand is, I'm going to be the guy that helps on Twitter. And I put a lot of links in. I put quote cards that matter to me, not a service that puts them up there for me. And I help people. That's my content. And and the same I use Twitter as an example because it's my largest audience, but the same is true for Facebook, for LinkedIn. Most of my business actually comes off of LinkedIn, and people ask me questions based on what I posted, or find me in a search. I answer that question and they come back and want more. And it just applies. Once you learn that it's better to find the people that want to buy instead of trying to sell them, you're much better off. All the persuasion, all the sales tactics, NLP is fantastic to learn. If you haven't read Influence, the psychology.
Cialdini, yeah.
Yeah, it's persuasion, psychology of it. I don't know. The book's got influence is the big word, and it's Cialdini. Yes, Cialdini. I get asked every time there's somebody in an audience comes up to me and asks that. And Bob and I have worked together on a couple things, but mostly me interviewing him and promoting it just because I like what he did so much. And if you haven't read the book lately, read it again. It's just full of incredible examples of how to persuade. And one that I learned that was important to me was likability. I want you to like me, but more important is I need to like you. I need to find out what your interest is. So if I find somebody that I want to sell to and they're interested in rescue dog, well, I'm going to do everything I can to help them with rescue dog, and takes care of it. That's probably a poor one for me. I don't know anything about rescue dog. If my wife was here, she'd be yelling, "What the hell are you saying rescue dogs for? You don't even care." But that's the truth. By the way, sushi in Cincinnati, I have to be careful. I always say this when I tell this story. I do not need any recommendations for sushi or Cincinnati. I've never been to Cincinnati. I hate sushi. I hate the thought of eating raw fish or even cooked fish. But sushi in Cincinnati has just been such a great example because I've made it work many times. Large audiences, small audiences, whatever. So yeah, you find out what somebody wants. And see, like I told you guys when you asked me what I wanted to talk about, or if I had any questions. No, ask me a question. I'm going to respond. I'm here to help you and help your audience. And if you keep that attitude, things open up. Thanks to the connection on the internet. By the way, this is the brass tacks. This is why it works. We're all connected. Billions of people are on the internet. Everyone's going to be on the internet eventually. We're getting more and more connected. Thanks to technologies like blockchain, the connections are working better and better. 5G is just going to blow that away to where every person on earth is going to be connected. That means if you're wasting your time talking to somebody that doesn't want to buy, you're just wasting money. Don't put out something because somebody might see it. Ugh, I hate it when somebody says that. Whoa, we're contacting you because you have a large audience. You go like, yeah, but what if my audience doesn't care about what you want me to talk about? That's more important than anything. I've got to respect my audience. And you got a large audience. I can make almost anything interesting, but, that's what they pay me to do. So, if I need to change your topic into something interesting, then I will. But, yeah, don't keep going sale, sale, sale. By the way, if you're trying to put stuff on sale, that means that you haven't been creative in attracting people. Having a sale, giving somebody a special deal when you're closing them, all good stuff to do. Time limits, things like that. But if your main headline is big sale, then, and it's not, a special day, in other words, you got to have some other way to attract people. The quality customers don't buy on price. And we ultimately, though, care about, when we're negotiating, the price comes in. But do you want to start negotiating before you ever meet somebody? No. I walk into your store and say, do you want to take advantage of 30% off? No. I walk in your store because I'm interested in what you sell. And the same with the website, same with anything. So I hope that's been a bit helpful.
All right. So I can't help but notice your background with your library. I love reading too. I see a couple that I've read, like Flip the Funnel, Teaming Up, Brainfluence. But I actually want to ask you about the stuffed figure behind you and the easy chair. What's the story? Is this representing you at a period of your life? Yeah.
That's Uncle Frank, or Pull My Finger Frank, Fred.
Okay.
Somebody gave it to me many years ago. I think it's past. We're going to try it. This could be the last time it worked. I never have found batteries in it.
Our audience desires this information.
Here, by the microphone. Nope.
Oh. Well, I guess Gas X finally worked.
He's got batteries. Next time we do an interview, he'll have batteries. But it's he makes, there's a fart sound and he says something funny. And he's there to, remind us to keep things light and casual and real instead of too stuffy. I have to admit, most of the books you see behind me are props. Last time I moved, I grabbed the closest box.
Oh.
There may be a couple, there's some of my favorite books there. Like, wait a minute, since we're talking books. This is my favorite book of the last decade.
I have not read that.
Yeah. John Kay is an economist. You can find his TED Talks and Google him on all sorts of stuff. But obliquity is something that I've been studying in other places. Obliquity means that that you set a goal, you have a North Star, you go someplace, and then you almost never follow it. So much like this interview, you had an idea of what we would talk about, and then Warren opened up, and you don't know what happened. But in most of the time, we find obstacles. Most great inventions, you know, the 3M Post-it note story. They invented it by mistake. Bubble jets. I used to own a company that fixed bubble jet printers from Canon. And inkjets from the DeskJet from HP and a couple other ones. But we did huge amount of volume for Canon. And so we told the story all the time. The bubble jet was invented, guy went to lunch with a hypodermic needle full of ink set too close to a soldering iron that was left on. He came back from lunch having seen the ink squirt across the room and said we could do something with that. He was not setting out to design a way to spray ink on paper. Because at the time, I mean, think about it. Ink on paper, how crazy is that? Laser printers, which was my specialty. Laser printers work under the same concept you learned in grade school of being able to control iron filings from underneath the sheet of paper with the magnet. So, you know, doing this. And, you know, you can't write your name with that. How could that possibly work? Thanks to lasers and changing the magnetic property temporarily of the drum, you can do that today, and you know, it's revolutionized all sorts of things because we have that. And so I always look to the future and what's going to come. But what John Kay says, we're not going to. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know all these emotions, politics, and I'm talking about intercompany politics, not what the country's doing. That affects you very little. What really affects your day to day is what happens. Like, I'm talking to two people, so I know there's politics. Because each of you in your inner core thinks of yourself first. You're going to, like they say on every flight, when the masks drop down, you got to take care of yourself first. And you got to, and we have that emotional makeup that is in our head. It's where you're going to wind up doing most of your decision making. And so you are going to run into obstacles. The board's not going to approve. The law's going to change. The technology didn't work quite right. And you're going to have to give up. Chris Brogan wrote a great piece yesterday in his newsletter about it's not only okay to give up, you probably should be giving up more. Instead of, all this self-help of stick with it, go through it. Well, both are true. The North Star's got to be there. If you're building $1 billion company, you're not going to give up at the first obstacle. You're going to nearly go out of business several times. In fact, John Chambers' last book, or his only book as far as I know, John Chambers' book about being CEO of Cisco for 20 years. Sorry, I can't think of what the name of the book is right now, but he said that he was given the advice early on that you're a good leader. You'll be a great leader once you've been through a near-death existential crisis with your company. And they went through that with the .com burst, because every one of those .com companies that got funding and went nowhere bought a whole bunch of Cisco products. And they were on back order. They were planning ahead for what they needed, and all the logistics, was a great story in his book. And they managed to get through it, and a $2.5 billion write-off. And they managed to survive that. And he feels that's what it takes to be a great leader. I'm not wishing a $2.5 billion write-off on anyone, but the nice thing about a $2.5 billion write-off, you have to have $2.5 billion to write off.
Right.
So paying taxes on $100 billion, well, we'll figure it out. You can hire somebody at that point. That's it. That's my favorite book. And a couple of ones. Billions Rising. That's what got me into blockchain and connecting the whole world. When somebody in Uganda can sell sell a knick-knack to somebody in Chicago and not have to worry about the government and the banks and the wire service taking half of the money. That's pretty cool. That's the Alibaba story. That in China, that's what's happened. That's not, it's not just them doing what eBay and Amazon does. It's them. They're allowing all sorts of little merchants to do business, and so that's the future. Okay, have I run out of time?
As a last question, we know that you're a futurist. Even though we know we can't predict the future, where do you think you're going to be interacting like a couple years out within influencer marketing? Like you mentioned blockchain, you mentioned all these different ways that you're getting involved and providing value. Where do you see the evolution?
I'm advising some companies that are working on things like loyalty payments and paying for small transactions. And one more book, Cory Doctorow, Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom. He tells about a future where we have a waffle number on our head, but we can replace our clone anytime it gets damaged. So if you've been properly backed up, somebody shoots you, they just reboot another clone and you lose a few hours. And so you're basically immortal. There's no money, and that's the reason I bring it up. Absolutely no money. Everything's been taken care of. The end of capitalism, another great book, the end of capitalism is not because we get rid of capitalism. It's because capitalism's end goal is to take care of everybody on the planet. Once we do, and everybody can eat, have a place to live, access to clean water, some amount of freedom, taking the bottom of, that's what we talked about in Billions Rising, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is that, once all the people in the earth can connect and do whatever they want, travel freely, we don't need anything else. Electricity is essentially free. We can then solve any other problem we want. That's from Buckminster Fuller. You want to solve the world's problem, you need a global grid, and that solves everything. Well, we're working on that in electricity, in local power, whatever, solar, and we're but in people communicating, the hive brain that is us all, the internet is getting us there, that we can find out anything we need to know. I don't see anyone going to college in 10 to 15 years. But again, that's not so much a prediction as I got to start thinking about my grandchild is not going to go to college. And because she's going to be, she's so smart, she's not quite one. She knows how to swipe something on a phone. And it's not like she's, sitting with the phone all day. She can't even walk. She's not picking her own programs, but she is able to notice that it's her on the phone. I couldn't do that when I was an infant, but it's going to rewire and change how we look at things. We're not going to put up with sitting in a classroom and raising our hands. That's a skill you don't need in the real world, by the way. No job is ever going to require you to raise your hand and sit quietly till somebody gives you permission to do something.
We got away with that policy.
Yeah. We just got rid of it.
Just now, right? And so I think that the trend is going to be like, it's hard to imagine
post-scarcity society. When
I was in 2007 and thinking where the iPhone was going to go, I knew it was revolutionary. I wanted one immediately, of course. But, I immediately saw that there were things that was wrong with it. It wasn't going to work right yet. And they fixed a lot of that. Still a lot more I'd fix on the basic smartphone. But hey, I live with it. In fact, today I have two. It's a whole nother story we won't get into. I don't normally have two phones. I think we're going to get to where VR and AR is going to work like smartphones do today. And that means that you can have a pop-up display anywhere you want. Maybe 10 years out till we get it on contact lenses. That's just fine by me. I'd love to. I'm a cyborg already, I'm wearing contact lenses. and automation has ruled my life. I have a thermostat.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a thermometer too, but that's not the point. I have a thermostat. It controls the temperature in the room. I don't have to do anything. No, it's not some fancy Nest item. It's what came with the house. And, the mercury moves and flips a switch. And when when the coil expands or contracts, it moves the little thing that's got mercury in it. That's it. That's a piece of automation that I've had almost my entire life. We didn't have it till I was probably like 12, and in my house. But yeah, it makes life so livable. It's how I can stand to live in the frickin' desert. And it makes it okay. And other kind of automation. I don't think about how far something is. I get in my car and drive. Actually, I take an Uber, but that's a different story. And you can get to any place, you can do anything. We need to make sure that we, respect freedoms, privacy, that sort of thing. But the way we're building on blockchain, it's there. And so, watch the trends. Moore's law is never going to fail you. We've been going with Moore's laws about like this, and we're going to take off like this. We're going to take off a whole lot faster as technology. And we're right at the end of Moore's law being the slow way to improve. And when that happens, just watch the trend, stick with it. Don't stick with somebody that's going to make a comeback by getting us to watch TV on an appointment basis, or get us back to reading newspapers, or even books. Like I say, this is a set. I read on the Kindle or Audible.
I'm a classicist. I enjoy the look and the feel and the smell of the book still. But
well, I do too, but I'm old. But I realize that in the future, my granddaughter will not be reading books.
No, it's done.
Yeah. So that being said, I should leave. I need to go read my granddaughter a book.
Want to join Intellifluence as an influencer for free? It's easy. Visit Intellifluence.com, click on the influencers link, and then click on the Join for Free button to sign up. Once you have registered, you will get immediate access to our influencer marketplace where you can browse relevant offers from brands and apply on the spot. You'll also be eligible to receive attractive product and service pitches from brands. There's absolutely no cost to join as an influencer, so we hope you take advantage of our service. Also, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and well, you know the drill. Until our next episode, keep being awesome.